What do we find at the intersection of faith and the world? Our new podcast, Crossroads, explores this question in thought-provoking conversations featuring guests from around the world who are seeking to live faithfully in the public square. This is a safe space to discuss politics, technology, and our responsibilities as citizens. Pull up a chair and meet us as we search for a better way forward. Welcome to Crossroads, where we discuss the intersection of sacred and civic. I'm your host, Nygard Owens. Today, I'm joined by the Cathedral's Vicar, Canon Dana Corsello, and Julie DeBoer, Associate Director of Music and Chorister Program Director. Dana and Julie are here to give us the inside scoop of what it takes to make Christmas happen at the Cathedral. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you for having me. This is my first podcast.
Oh, we're so
recording.
Happy.
I'm happy to be here.
And welcome, Julie. We're so happy to have you too.
Thank you. Also, my first podcast. I listen to many podcasts, but have never been on a podcast. So this is very exciting.
Yeah.
Well, we are delighted to have you all and so glad that you could join us today. We are recording in our Cathedral studios. I'm in DC this week, so it is wonderful to have this conversation in person. We are talking about Christmas because for our listeners, this episode drops on Christmas Day. For those of you listening in, we are actually recording the very first week of December. So we have started with our first Sunday of Advent. We've had our Advent lessons and carol service, and there is so much more to come. Dana and Julie, can you talk to us a little bit about what it takes to make Christmas happen, all of the services, everything that goes into it, because it's a lot.
Well, Julie, why don't you start, since this is the music department's biggest week of the year with Messiah. Actually, I can't believe you're still here standing.
Yep, I'm, trying to take it one day at a time. I'm a runner, so I think the marathon analogy works really well here, that Advent is kind of a marathon for the music department and for a lot of departments at the Cathedral. So we just finished Advent lessons and carols on Sunday, which is with our senior choristers, so the older choristers in each group, and then with our staff singers as well, which was beautiful. And then now we're in the middle of Messiah week. So for our choir, that means 3-hour rehearsals on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We've got a performance on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, and then that's just the end of the first week of Advent. So Messiah week is always a really, really busy week, but the kids love singing Messiah, and I love working with them on Messiah. One of the things that is really, really fun for me about Messiah is we have a new program in the music area called the Choral Apprentice Program. And so this is for boys whose voices have changed, but who want to still be involved in the music department. Yeah, so we had a few of them singing in Advent lessons and carols as well. But I mean, the tradition in the past of chorister programs for hundreds of years had always been, once the boys' voices change, they get very politely shown the door and we never see them again. And so it's really nice that we have boys who are in high school who sing some of the services throughout the year and they participate in Messiah. And it's so cool to work with these boys who are now singing the tenor or bass parts in Messiah, but who sang for several years in their boy soprano voices in Messiah.
Oh, I love it.
So that's really fun to work with them. So yeah, we're in the midst of Messiah rehearsals now. And then next week, we've got school lessons and carols, which is a whole nother thing that we can get into at some point. Very fun. And then it's just a sprint to Christmas with Gospel Christmas.
Well, it starts with Blue Christmas.
There we go. Yes,
But
thank you.
before we get into those services, tell us how many people you expect to attend all the Messiah performances.
Oh, gosh, it's thousands. I think it's maybe 10,000.
I think it's around 10,000.
Yeah. They're always sold out.
Right.
I mean, they are very, very well attended. And we have, on Saturday morning, we have the Family Messiah performance, which is really fun. It's a condensed version of Messiah. And, you know, it's so different from going to a normal concert where there's sort of a vibe of like, we all have to be absolutely silent and on our best behavior. We kind of embrace like, it's okay if there are kids screaming during the Family Messiah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wonderfully controlled chaos during that performance.
I love it. How many choristers will participate in the Messiah in a given year?
Sure. So for Messiah, again, that's our senior choristers. So it's the high school girls and middle school
Okay.
boys. So that will be 15 choristers. And then there are 8 choral apprentices right now. So 23 kids from St. Albans and NCS. And then probably 12 staff singers as well. So the kids all sing the soprano part, and then the staff singers sing alto, tenor, and bass, along with those boys with the changed voices that I mentioned. So, yeah.
Neat. One of the things I think is we live in the tension as clergy here at the cathedral, and I think you do too, as a musician and a choral director, is bringing heaven down to earth, trying to bring the incarnation truly into people's lives. When we're in a cathedral environment and we have so many tourists, we also have congregation members who, for a lot of people, this is their one time for Christmas. Like, we are bringing Christmas to them. And I don't think what people understand or realize, like you said, Julie, people come to one service and they think, oh, that's it. So to put it in perspective for everyone who's listening, if you count the Messiah guests, by the time we hit Christmas Day, almost 30,000 people will be through these cathedral doors.
Wow, that's just incredible. Not to mention all the people who join online, which is thousands and thousands more.
No, thank you, Joe. That's exactly right. And so for clergy and musicians, this is our Christmas too. And so the tension lies in, how do we get fed when we're truly exhausted? How do we keep each other smiling and hopeful and really enjoying our jobs, which we do because this is a calling. This is our vocation. This is what God has called us to do. And so I think for me, this Christmas marathon, and I'd like to think of it as Christmas Confidential, is the tension between my own self-care, my own feeling of what Christmas means to me, and then also being able to embody it for others, for all the other people who come here. Because I asked Jake in our worship department to give me the numbers for bulletins that we print. You're not going to believe this. So from Advent, this does not include Messiah. So from Advent 1 to Christmas Day, 20,000 worship bulletins are printed. That is astronomical.
I know. He was in our worship meeting this week. And again, this is the first week of December. Our bulletins for the end of December for all of those special Christmas services have to go out to the printer this week.
Right.
They have to be done. They have to be perfect this week.
So the worship team has been working so hard. Because you guys had to give them the music months ago, probably.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 2 months
So
ago,
all
maybe.
of the details. And then by the time Christmas Day is over, if you take Messiah out of it, almost 20,000 guests will come through the cathedral. And for me as the vicar, our mission is to create intimacy, to create community all year long. That is so that when our folks come for these Christmas services, they don't feel like everyone else is taken over. Because we do have a lot of tourists here, that they still feel that this is my church, even during big holiday seasons. And it really gets me emotional because we want them to feel like they can come in and go, yes, this is still my Christmas family, and I'm still celebrating the holidays with them, even though there are all these other people I've never seen in my life,
Yeah.
And as cathedral clergy, and I know as musicians, we're in a really privileged position. We get to work here. It's incredible. Our platform is huge. The things we get to do, the people we get to meet is truly astounding. So I wouldn't exchange that for anything in the world. But at the same time, it's hard. It's a lot. And we're kind of dead by the end of it.
Yeah. You just want to go home and have your Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But I think that there is that kind of dichotomy here. Yeah. And I was thinking about this the other day. When was the last time that I went to my home church with my family on Christmas Eve? And it was when I was a junior in undergrad. Because after that, I had a church job where I was singing on Christmas Eve. So that's something, of course, that my family is totally used to now. And the nice thing about here is that my husband sings in the choir.
Yeah,
So we are
that's true.
actually both here together on Christmas Eve. That works out well.
Well, let me tell you how many years, since my husband and I are both ministers, how many years we have been in different churches.
Right.
Oh boy.
And we've never been
Right.
able to sit in a pew together on Christmas Eve.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. The year that my oldest was born, she was actually, both of our children were born just before the holiday season. So I was on maternity leave with them and could sit in the pews at his church. But often I'd be in my own church and he'd be in his church, and kids would get shuttled back and forth. It's tough.
Yeah, and that's how we were until we're both at the Cathedral now. So, there were a couple years where he had a church job in Boston and I was in Wisconsin, so we were in different places then. But I think what's really nice is that the choir, and I'm sure the clergy have this as well, that we kind of try to create our own family experience for Christmas Eve. So yeah, it's different from being with your family, but you feel like you have like a different and also very special tradition being with these people who you're close to in a different way and making music together during this important time. So yeah, I think just especially throughout Lessons and Carols and Christmas Eve, there are so many moments where you really are like, okay, this does feel like Christmas to me. I'm at work now, and sometimes it does feel like that. But there are always moments where it's like, this is Christmas. This feels like I am actually celebrating Christmas right now in exactly the way that I would want to.
So what are some of those moments?
For me, one of them, I think this is probably true of a lot of people, is the lighting of the candles for Silent Night.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's always just magical every year. Another one that I think probably a lot of musicians would say, and it's actually become kind of like a joke or a meme at this point, but the final verse of "O Come All Ye Faithful," the specific like harmonization arrangement that is kind of universal at this point, the Wilcox arrangement. There's a specific chord that happens on "Word of the Father."
I know.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Right on "Word."
Okay.
And actually, if you Google "Word of the," what will come up as a suggestion is probably "Word of the Father" chord. And then you can read all these articles about like that chord specifically is just like, okay, we have arrived. It's Christmas. It's something about like, it's such a surprising thing that he does with the harmony that's different from all the other verses. And it's kind of, there's like a little bit of dissonance in there. It's wonderful. So definitely that's another moment for me. You should look it up.
I am
I'm
Listen
going
to
to
it.
now.
Well, now for Christmas, when we sing "O Come All Ye Faithful," Word of the Father, listen to the chord on "Word," and you will be like, that's right. I always hear that specific chord.
I think we'll have
amazing.
to add this to our show notes.
You should, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Add a link.
Yeah, no, I love Advent 1, O come, Emmanuel. I mean, that just, love that. I was talking with Scott Sanders and Dr. Troy Thomas, our verters, about this podcast because they were worried about what I would do and say. Because I do have a story. And we were talking about this because, there is that tension between work and worship.
Yeah.
And we are to bring worship and God to people, that incarnation. And Scott made this beautiful point. He said, no matter what it is, I can always feel it. There's always some little revelation. There's always some little thing. He said the ringing the bells at the Easter Vigil. I just think I've died and gone to heaven with that. But it's true. I never know when it's going to come. I never know during, all of the services from Blue Christmas to Christmas Day. I mean, I love Christmas Day because those are the people who really want to be there. It's not a family obligation. They're not there with their grandmother on Christmas Eve. They're not there with the masses. And we walk in and we think, who could possibly be here on Christmas Day? We've had, 20,000 before. And last year there were 1,800 people on Christmas Day. And it's a lot, but it was so special. And I love when they receive communion, you can look them in the eyes, you know what I mean? And it's just it's that really intimate connection. and they're so grateful, and everyone's just like, Merry Christmas. It's for that moment, all of those thousands of people, I feel like we all have the same values. We all love God. It's tradition. And we're in one place where all is right with the world. That doesn't happen
Yeah.
unless you're at a college football game. That's completely different.
Or the eclipse.
Or the eclipse. No.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a brilliant, analogy. But everyone's there
Yeah.
for a common purpose, right?
It's something that transcends us. It's bigger
Yes.
than us. And so we can all be a part of it. And it brings us together.
Yeah, yeah. But I do have a funny story, though.
Oh, good. We were hoping for some funny stories.
So in 2019, Rose Duncan, oh my gosh, we started these Christmas pageants with live animals when I got here in Christmas of 2017. And they just blew up exponentially. They went from 300 in attendance to 900 to we had to do 2 in one day, and there were 6,000 kids. There were 3,000 and 3,000. And this is Christmas of 19. And we had this big giant tent out on the front lawn because we couldn't fit everybody in the cathedral. We had to do this turnover, and we have a photo booth with all these animals, the typical barnyard animals. So your little family could go in the manger and take the picture. Well, the family that brings all of our animals, it's actually Mary and Joseph. That's their name, Mary and Joseph Cox.
That's amazing.
Mary's Pony Go Round.
I love it.
They come every year. I love them dearly. They brought this juvenile camel. His name was Aladdin. And Aladdin had not been neutered.
Oh, dear.
Aladdin was feeling randy with a giant hay bale. And we could not get in between. This is why it was so funny. Who's going to get between a giant camel?
Because they bite.
They bite and they kick. Anyway, so the kids were in hysterics. Their parents, not so much.
So is that why we have that fake giant camel now? Because now at the family Christmas service, it has that
I know,
big
we have always had
costume
that.
camel.
We've
Okay,
always had
I wasn't sure if that was the solution to this.
Yeah,
issue.
but so Mary and Joseph, we asked them no longer to bring Aladdin. Aladdin stays back at the barn. But it was just, you know what I mean? You cannot make this stuff up. This is right out of a holiday Christmas movie because the kids thought it was funny. The parents, not so much. And then we had to get in between them. Margaret Falls and I and her dad was actually manning the line, and we're like, I'm sorry. We'll go get the handler. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, how do you explain that to people?
So, yeah, we have so many memories of that during.
I love watching you and Rose during the family Christmas service and your interactions. You play off of each other and
we run around like crazy people. I think not this year, but the year before, I got caught on a hot mic dancing around going, can you believe a 59-year-old woman is acting like a fool in doing this? And everyone was like, your mic's on.
Oh, no. That's so funny.
Twirling down the aisle.
It could have been a lot worse, though.
Yeah. But the point of all this is to make God real and tangible for the kids. We get to do that. And that's pretty neat.
it is. At last year's family Christmas service, following the service, a little girl came up to me with her mom, and her mom asked if I would take a moment and speak with her. And of course, so I get down and she hands me this card, and it's a jumble of letters. She was probably 3 years old
Aw.
and had just written all of these letters in all different configurations inside the card. And she brought it to the service to be able to give it to someone.
That is so sweet.
And I was preaching the next day for Advent 4, which happened to be Christmas Eve.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so
that's
it was
right.
that crazy changeover between Advent 4 in the morning, Christmas
Yeah.
Eve in the evening. And she gives me this card with all of these letters. And I had this thought of, oh, it's all right here. Everything I
Wow.
need in this jumble of letters, it's all right here. And I take this love and these letters and I can make it into something to give to people.
Yeah. That's really sweet. That's beautiful.
Julie, do you have any good chorister stories for us?
Well, so next week is our school lessons and carols service, which is always just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just all over the place. I mean, literally and figuratively. So it's a lessons and carols service like we do on the 23rd and 24th. But of course, when we have our service, it's the liturgy of lessons and carols. It's with the choir who's used to singing at the cathedral. And school lessons and carols is so wonderful. It's all of the ensembles from National Cathedral School and St. Albans. So we've got like upper school orchestra, lower school orchestra, CBA chorus, middle school guild, the dancers. It's so many different ensembles, and they sing from different parts of the cathedral. So the madrigals might be singing while they're processing. And then the next thing that happens is like the 4th and 5th graders in a balcony. And so it's a lot of choreography that goes into this with the cathedral music department and the school music departments and the chaplains from the schools. So there are sometimes kids who might be in, for example, the boy chorister group, but they're also in lower school orchestra, and they're also have to run over and sing with their classes from the South Transept. So there's just a lot of chaos that happens during this service. And I remember last year we had one chorister, little 9-year-old boy, who I guess didn't get the memo that he could just keep his vestments on when he went from singing with us to going and singing with his class. So in his mind, he's like, oh my gosh, everybody else in my class is wearing their blazer. That's what I'm supposed to be wearing. So he was like, throwing off his robe in the South Transept. And then he realized, and I was sitting in the great choir at the time, he realized that he didn't have his blazer like everybody else did. It was downstairs in the choir room. So he just like sprinted across the great choir while people are performing, runs downstairs. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is he doing now? And then he came back up. And I think this was during like a reading or a collect or something. And I'm just trying to like communicate with him silently, like, do not run across right now. He just ran right across. And I got him to just like sit with me for a moment to just be like, you need to go very quietly. Do not run. Just walk. We can't be distracting right now. And so he went over, he sang with his class. And it was really funny because I was thinking like, oh no, this just looks so bad. We've got a kid running around who doesn't know what he's doing. And Dean Randy Hollerith was like sitting near me in the great choir. And he just leans over and was like, they're so cute at that age.
It's true.
And which is true. But I'm just thinking like, we've got so much to coordinate in all of these services. And, you've got to keep in mind with all of this coordination going on, if a kid suddenly is like, I'm not feeling well, or
you had to take that serious.
I got a paper cut and my finger's bleeding, or I spilled something on my robe. It's like just having the kids involved adds a whole extra layer to everything, but in a great way.
I love it. I love it. We've been talking about hope in a lot of places. With our Advent webinar series, it's all focused on hope, some of our sermons. And certainly, if we look at the 4 pillars of Advent, they're hope, peace, love, and joy. So where do you find these things, the hope, peace, love, and joy in the Advent and Christmas season here at the cathedral?
Well, I think we find it, like Julie, you said, within the choir. We find it within our colleagues. I think we have to find it within ourselves to be able to share it with other people. And sometimes that's easier said than done.
Yeah, I find it in the kids that I get to work with. And just to be honest with you, like we've gone through a transition in the music department this fall. So that has been difficult. But one thing that has been really beautiful about it is that the kids, and especially the older ones who have more of an understanding of this, have really tried to support the music staff and have checked in with us to see like, are you guys doing okay with being busier this year? How are you doing? We appreciate you, like reaching out to us and being supportive of us in a way that, we try to be supportive of them, but then you find that actually kids have a real understanding of difficulties that adults go through as well. And so They really have been wonderful, and they love this time of year. And so I get a lot of energy back from them.
Yeah.
So even as we're working really hard and, have long days and lots of rehearsals, the energy that they give back to us during this time really fuels us and keeps us going.
Yeah. When I sit down Sunday mornings or for special services and I'm on the YouTube chat with our online worshipers from all over the world, you never know where people are going to be joining us from. It touches me every single week as people start checking in and saying where they're joining from. It blows me away and reminds me that we are this great big body of Christ spread out over this whole world. And the cathedral is such a special place that we bring people together and we see the body of Christ here in the cathedral with all of our worshipers, whether they are one-time visitors or join us online or come in person, no matter what. It's truly incredible.
We are the holding place for so much.
Well, thank you both. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is great fun.
Our first podcast.
I know. We should
did
take
it.
it on the road.
Yeah.
We'll have you back. It is no small feat to welcome 30,000 people to the cathedral for our services and Christmas programs during the month of December. I'm thankful for Dana, Julie, and everyone who gives their time and energy to make each experience a meaningful one for our guests. What we see on the platform from these services and concerts is just a fraction of what it takes to make them happen. From start to finish, they require the help of staff and volunteers spanning all departments at the cathedral and numbering well over 100. For our next episode, our first in 2025, we welcome best-selling author and spiritual guide Emily P. Freeman to talk to us about making decisions in the new year. I know you'll love Emily's gentle invitation into a meaningful new year. Thank you for listening to Crossroads. Until next time, peace be with you and Merry Christmas. If the digital offerings of the cathedral enrich your daily life, please consider becoming a supporter today by making a gift at cathedral.org/inspire.